Okay, got my rail bending tool done, functional, and we're testing it and finding out how it'll go. What we've got here is a stop, so we can get a preset once we've got a radius we know we like or can adjust between. We can adjust it, go back to a preset. There's a green dot directly opposite a red dot, so that's half turns, and then just a white dot in between. And it's 6 flats with a radius, so really 12 divisions. I think that's going to be more than is needed, but I've already bent a couple, my very first few, and man, this thing works slick. Here's an example of some I've bent already. I'm pre-bending these. You can see a mark. If you figure out the radius, you know how far you have to go. Okay, this is for the runaround outer. This one will be going in here. They will get final trimmed in place as we're mating up other rails. This one would be inner left. That's this back over here. These are going to have to get feeders soldered to them. Choose where they're going to drop and whatever. And then this one's a outer right here. Okay, and that can get a final trim. But it's pretty amazing how precisely you can get your rail. And as a result, you have so little tension on it. Okay, as far as the glue holding and how much the glue is being asked to do. And then when I make joints, if I have to make a joint on a corner, I'm not worried about using rail joiners. I'll just make the joint right near one of the tie plates that has the little guides on them, and that should get her done. But this color, here we go. This is a sense of how that snaps in. When I'm gluing, this will just, I say snaps in, it registers and comes on around. But when I'm gluing, it makes that all go easy. So that gives you a sense of it. I'm pre-cutting and pre-forming now. And what I'll also do is make, like on this one, I will make a final track joint. Instead of trying to make these mate perfectly to the next one, I'll get my turns in, get them gapped how I want, get everything in place, and then fill in my last places with a very straight piece of rail. It's just a simple trim, boom, done. At least that's the plan. So that's a couple of them ready to go, and I can give you an example of how I'm doing that. The first thing we do have to know how to calculate a radius. Okay, these are 3.5 inch radiuses, and I need a inner, I believe it is. No, I need an outer over here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick a starting point on the rail that's somewhere on a straight. So let me come here. Yeah, something like that. That's close enough for argument's sake. And that'll be a start. This is actually a little over 180, so I can fudge that in as I'm going. You'll see in a minute how that goes. Okay, that's my starting point. 3.5 inch radius. And again, I said I'm doing an outside. Yes. And so outside calculates to an 11.4. That also falls in with where my rule of thumb or my intended was to keep rails at approximately a foot long. For my gaps, for expansion, contraction, especially on something like this that's likely to travel a little and might see some temperature extremes. So I need 11.4, and I'm going to still call that 11.4. So I just go 11, let's go with 11.5. Okay, 11.5 on my scale. Okay, this is going to be the extent of my bends, at least as I get started. Okay, and I think that's good enough to see. I've already set this up. taken some notes, and it looks like 3.1 turns nominally is going to get me what I want. That's where these little marks come in. I'm going to go greens. There's 1 turn, 2 turns. Let's go with the red 2.5, at least for a starter, but we know we're going to be going further. And again, this is, you saw how many I've used or done with this. It's I'm new to this too. It's all new stuff. But you see here how the rail lays on like so. I'm just pushing it in with my finger too. This is actually not forcing it to bend. It's stopping me to control the extent of my bend. Okay, so I'm pushing it just a little bit. Everything's rolling through smoothly. I'm going through. Okay, here we go. A little further. Here we go. I'm pushing further, but I'm going to hit that there. I'm actually up against that stop now. So, and we will see, we're not there yet. We can tell because we're not at roughly the 180 we were after. Okay. I'm not even going to look at that. And I already have reference that tells me I have to go over 3 turns. So I'm going to go the next half. Back to the green dot. That's 3 full turns on my stop. Okay. There, we're starting to get somewhere. That's making a difference. Okay. Let's see what we're looking like. And this was inner that I'm after, is that? I can't believe myself on that. No, I'm actually after an outer. Okay, I actually shouldn't have gone there. Well, and there's a little bit of an easement on these, so I'm just going to give it a little tweak. Oops. Something like that. There we go. Boy, that's looking pretty good right there. And again, so little force. And this is a full length of rail. I don't want to, and I also don't want my joints to match up. So I'm going to bring this one down. This is somewhat arbitrary. We'll fill these in later. Okay. And just snip. There we go. That's another piece of rail for another part. But this is how we're doing it. And, oops. Yeah, I'm buying that. Totally buying that. And so that's how this track's going to work. Now what I'll do is there'll be glue going in here. That'll be the ply bond. It's contact cement, basically. Paint it in with a brush. I take the Pliabond and I will thin it a little bit. I've already experimented with that. About 20%, up to 20%. But so it's not having the stringy stuff. If you've ever worked with it, it's messy. And a very small paintbrush. And you apply it to both sides and then a third coat according to them. So that's what I've done. And I'll go around. I'll put the first coat here, do the rail, go around, do a second coat, and then start laying it in. And then I'll have my final. I won't even try to put these last rail pieces in. Those will be my final adjustment fitment rails. Just pick a strategic place that's good for that. But that's the gist of it. And 3D printed and machined parts between machined flanges. These are only aluminum. If I'm really making these, I'll probably use a hardened washer on these for wear, but that may even prove not to be an issue. I was considering a knob or something. I really think I'm going to leave it. This works so well like this. I might put one under because sometimes you need this clear if you're running a real tight radius, and you can push it from the bottom as well. It just doesn't take much. And I'm figuring this to be for code 40 and code 55. You saw what little, I'm just going like that with it, what little effort it takes. So, okay, that's enough for now. I'll show you later when I get more done.